He was young. He was fast. He was certain that speed and flash could beat anything, even Bruce Lee. 8 seconds later, he was on his knees, and the tears came before he even understood why. This is the story of Wei Long, a 19-year-old stuntman who walked onto a Hong Kong film set, convinced he had something to prove, and walked off at having learned the most important lesson of his life. Kowloon, Hong Kong, August 1973. The film set is alive with controlled chaos. 40 crew members move with purpose across the concrete floor of Soundstage 2. Camera operators adjust angles under hot studio lights. Lighting technicians reposition heavy stands on wheel tripods. Sound engineers tape cables to the floor in long yellow strips. Assistant directors clutch clipboards and shout schedules in rapid Cantonese. Extras in period costumes sit in loose clusters, running lines under their breath, fanning themselves against the August heat. This is the set of an action film that will, within a year, make its lead actor a household name across the world. But right now, in the summer of 1973, is simply another long, grueling day of production. The kind where every take must be perfect, where bruises accumulate quietly under costume sleeves, and where the difference between a good stuntman and a forgotten one is measured in the details nobody in the audience will ever consciously notice. The film star is not just the lead actor. He is also the fight choreographer, the action consultant, and, more often than the credits will ever admit, the person quietly running the entire set whenever a fight scene is being blocked. Everyone defers to him, not because anyone ordered them to, but because they have all, at some point in the last 2 weeks, watched him move and understood, without needing to be told twice, that he operates on a different level than anyone else in the building. Among the junior stunt performers is a wiry 19-year-old named Wei Long. He grew up training in acrobatics and opera-style stage combat, the kind of physical theater where a spinning kick needs to look spectacular from the cheap seats far more than it needs to actually knock anyone down. He can backflip off a wall. He can land a full split from a standing jump. He has spent his whole short life being told he is gifted, and for the first time in his career, he is standing on a real film set, getting paid real money, taking real falls onto unforgiving concrete. Wei Long's story, up to this point, is a familiar one in the Hong Kong film world of the early 1970s. Sold into an opera training school by his family at the age of 6, he spent a decade of his childhood in a discipline so harsh that some of his classmates simply disappeared partway through, sent home, or worse, quietly given up on. 6 hours of physical drills before breakfast. Backbends held until his spine screamed. A teacher who used a bamboo cane on students who couldn't hold a stance long enough. By the time he was 14, he could do things with his body that most adults would call impossible. By 16, he'd left the opera school for the film industry, where the money was better and the falls, while still dangerous, at least came with a paycheck attached. He is good at his job. Genuinely good. The other stuntmen respect his acrobatics, even if a few of the older ones roll their eyes at how often he mentions it. But respect from other $20-a-day stuntmen isn't the same as being seen the way this film star is seen. And that distinction, over 2 weeks, has quietly begun to eat at him. It is not glamorous work. Some mornings he has redone the same 6-second stunt fall 11 times because the angle wasn't quite right. His shoulders are a map of old and new bruises. But this is how you earn your place. This is how a poor kid from an opera troupe becomes somebody in this industry. And yet, for 2 weeks, something has been building in him. A quiet, corrosive frustration. He watches the way the whole set orbits around the star. The way the director defers to him on every fight sequence. The way even seasoned producers step back and let him work uninterrupted. And Wei Long, 19 years old and full of the specific confidence that only 19-year-olds seem to possess in unlimited supply, starts telling himself a story. I could do what he does. Maybe better. My flips are higher. My falls are more dramatic. He's fast, sure, but I'm the one audiences will actually notice. He has, in other words, confused the sound of applause with the substance of skill. It is an easy mistake to make when you are 19 and talented and have never yet been tested by someone who isn't performing back at you. The mirror room. This morning, the crew is setting up the film's signature sequence, a fight scene staged in a room lined with mirrors, where the star will face a series of opponents in a maze of reflected surfaces. It's an ambitious, technically demanding scene. The choreography has to account for camera angles bouncing off glass in every direction. Every performer's position has been mapped out in advance, discussed in detail, rehearsed dry before a single camera rolls. Wei Long is part of the stunt team assigned to this scene, one of several men who will be, on camera, defeated by the star in quick succession. It's a small role, a few seconds of screen time, but Wei Long wants his few seconds to matter. He has been practicing something on his own time, a flourish nobody asked him to add, a spinning aerial kick with a full 360-degree rotation before the landing. He's convinced it will make the whole sequence look better, more exciting, more him. During a break in setup, Wei Long approaches the star, who is reviewing choreography notes with the stunt coordinator, his focus total and undivided. Sifu, Wei Long says, using the respectful term for a senior master. I have an idea for the scene. Something more acrobatic. I think it will make it more exciting for the audience. The star looks up. There's no hostility in his gaze, only the same complete, slightly unnerving attention he brings to everything. Show me, he says. Wei Long demonstrates the backflip, the full rotation kick, the perfect landing in a low stance. It is, by any reasonable measure of athleticism, impressive. Several nearby crew members glance over, quietly admiring. The star watches in silence. When Wei Long finishes, slightly out of breath, there's a pause. Very good technique, the star says finally. Very athletic. Wei Long allows himself a small smile, and then the star continues. But this is an opera. This is a fight. It looks good. It isn't efficient. In a real confrontation, you would never do a full rotation in the air. It costs you time. It exposes your back. It gives your opponent an opening you can't defend. The smile disappears from Wei Long's face. Something hot rises in his chest, the particular sting of a young man whose gift has just been quietly dismissed by someone he was hoping to impress. He has trained his whole short life in these techniques. He is, by the standards of his own world, one of the best. And this man has just told him, calmly and without cruelty, that his best isn't good enough. The words come out before Wei Long can stop them. With respect, Sifu, maybe in a real fight your way is better. But this is a movie. People want to see flips. Spectacle. That's what makes an action film work, not just what's efficient. The set goes quiet. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Crew members turn to look. Did the new kid just say his moves are better than the stars? Even Wei Long realizes, almost the instant the words leave his mouth, that he has made a serious mistake. But it's too late. The words are already hanging in the humid studio air, and now the entire crew is watching to see what happens next. There are perhaps 40 people close enough to have heard exactly what was said. Camera operators who have worked on a dozen productions and have never once seen anyone challenge the star like this. Extras still in their period costumes. The assistant director frozen mid-step with his clipboard against his chest. A few of the older stuntmen exchange glances that say, without words, this kid has no idea what he just did. One of them, a grizzled veteran named Sang, quietly mutters to the man next to him, "Watch. This will be over before it starts." The director, standing near the camera rig, doesn't intervene. He has been on enough sets with enough egos to recognize a moment that needs to play itself out rather than be managed away. He simply crosses his arms and watches, the way everyone else on the soundstage is now watching. Show me. The star sets down his notes. He walks toward Wei Long, not quickly, not aggressively, but with a controlled economy of motion that makes something in Wei Long's stomach tighten involuntarily. He stops 3 feet away. You think your moves are more impressive than mine. His voice is quiet, but the soundstage has excellent acoustics, and every person present hears it clearly. Wei Long's mouth goes dry. I meant for the camera, for entertainment. The star raises one hand, gently cutting him off. Show me. Your best move. The one you're proudest of. Wei Long hesitates. This is not how he wanted this conversation to go. But the entire crew is watching now. The director has paused work entirely, and if Wei Long backs down in front of 40 people, he will lose more face than if he simply commits. So he does what 19-year-old pride demands. He takes a running start, a full front flip in midair, a mid-flight rotation, a landing that drops cleanly into a full split, then springs back up into a spinning kick that finishes with perfect balance. It is genuinely spectacular. A ripple of quiet admiration moves through the watching crew. The star nods slowly. Impressive. Beautiful technique. A pause. Now I'll show you something. He does not take a run-up. He does not visibly prepare at all. He is simply standing there, 3 feet in front of Wei Long. And then, in a motion too fast for most of the crew to track clearly, he moves. 1 step, a shift of weight, an extended hand, and suddenly he is standing behind Wei Long, one open palm resting lightly against the back of Wei Long's neck. Wei Long freezes. He did not see the star move, did not hear him. One instant the man was in front of him, the next he was behind him, and there was nothing Wei Long could have done about it either way. The star steps back, returning to where he started, his voice pitched to carry across the whole set. Your technique took 5 seconds. It looked beautiful. In those 5 seconds, I could have struck you 3 times. You were in the air with no ability to defend yourself, committed to a path you couldn't change, completely open. My technique took 1 second. You never saw it. Which one is more impressive? The one that looks good, or the one that actually works? Wei Long's face burns. He has just been taught a lesson in front of the entire crew. Camera operators, extras, the director, the men he shares a dressing room with. But the star is not finished. Come at me, he says. Try to hit me. Use everything you have. Show me your way is better. It is not really a request. It is a door being opened. One last chance for Wei Long to actually learn something, instead of simply being humiliated again. 8 seconds. Wei Long is embarrassed, but he is also 19 and still, somewhere underneath the embarrassment, convinced that speed and flash can surprise anyone. He attacks with a spinning kick, fast, powerful, the kind of technique that has never once failed him on an opera stage. The star isn't there when it arrives. A small shift, minimal movement, exactly enough. Not a retreat, a redirection of his own weight that removes the target without requiring a single wasted step. Wei Long lands, resets, and throws a quick combination of punches, trying to close the distance before his opponent can reset his own balance. The star's hands rise and fall in small, economical arcs, redirecting each strike a few inches off its intended line. Never a hard block, never wasted force meeting force, just enough contact to change the angle. The way a hand trailed in a stream doesn't stop the water so much as guide where it goes next. Wei Long tries a jump kick, good height, clean form, the exact technique that drew murmurs of approval only a minute earlier. The star ducks beneath it in a motion so unhurried it looks almost lazy, and before Wei Long's feet touch the ground again, a single open palm taps against his ribs, exactly where a real strike would have landed. Enough contact to be felt clearly through his shirt. Not enough to injure, just enough to say, without a single word, you were open there. I could have ended this 3 moves ago. Wei Long tries once more, a low sweep aimed at the star's lead leg, the kind of technique that has ended fights for him on stage a dozen times. The star simply isn't standing where the sweep expects him to be. He has already shifted his weight a half step back and to the side, and the technique passes through empty air beneath him. 8 seconds. 6 techniques thrown. Every single one avoided or gently redirected. Not one real strike landed by the star, because he never needed to strike back. The demonstration itself was the message, delivered without a single blow that could be called an attack. Wei Long lands from his last attempt and simply stands there, chest heaving, not from exhaustion, but from the sudden, overwhelming weight of understanding exactly how outmatched he has been this entire time. Something in his throat tightens. His eyes sting. In front of 40 people, his co-workers, his crew, people whose respect he has spent 2 weeks trying to earn, his composure finally breaks, and the tears come, hot and humiliating and impossible to stop. He turns half away from the crowd, one hand pressed briefly to his face, shoulders shaking. Nobody laughs. The set has gone completely silent, and in that silence, the sound of a 19-year-old crying carries further than any punch could have. What comes after the tears? The star doesn't gloat. He doesn't smile. doesn't turn to the crew for approval, doesn't do any of the things a smaller man might do after winning so completely and so publicly. Instead, he walks over and puts a hand on Wei Long's shoulder. "Breathe," he says quietly, just for him. "This isn't shame. This is the beginning of learning something real." Wei Long wipes his face, embarrassed by the tears as much as by the loss itself. "I feel like a fool," he manages. "You're not a fool. You're talented, genuinely. Your body does things most people spend a lifetime trying to learn. But you've been training to impress an audience. I trained to survive an opponent. Those are not the same skill, even though they can look similar from a distance." He turns, addressing the whole crew now, his voice calm and carrying. "What you saw here isn't about who is better at martial arts. It's about the difference between performance and function. Wei Long's technique was beautiful. In a film, in an opera, on a stage. It will always have its place, and it takes real years of work to do what he just did. But confusing what looks impressive with what actually works is a mistake anyone can make, at any age, in any art. The goal isn't to choose one over the other. The goal is to know the difference, so you can use the right tool for what the moment actually requires." He looks back down at Wei Long. "Empty your cup," he says. "You already know how to be seen. Now learn how to see." Wei Long nods, unable to trust his voice yet. The crew, sensing the moment has passed from spectacle into something more private, slowly returns to its own business. Cables get retaped. Lights get adjusted. The assistant director calls out that they'll resume blocking in 5 minutes. But a few people linger a moment longer than necessary, glancing back at the two of them, sensing they've just watched something that will get talked about in dressing rooms for years. Sang, the older stuntman who predicted how this would go, walks over and claps Wei Long once on the shoulder. "Everybody who's any good gets a day like this," he says quietly, not unkindly. "Some people never get up afterward. You will. I can already tell." "How can you tell?" Wei Long asks, still wiping his face. "Because you're still standing here instead of walking off the set," Sang says. "That's the only test that actually matters." The weeks that follow, Wei Long doesn't quit. That's the part of the story people who were there always remember most clearly. Not the tears, but what he did after them. He starts showing up an hour before call time, watching the star warm up, asking questions instead of demonstrations. At first, the star simply nods at him and continues his own routine, letting Wei Long observe without comment. It takes almost a week before Wei Long works up the nerve to ask his first real question. "Why didn't you hit me back?" he asks one morning, while the star wraps his hands before a session on the heavy bag. "You could have. Easily. Why just touch and step away?" The star considers this for a moment before answering. "Because the lesson wasn't about hurting you. It was about showing you something you couldn't see on your own yet. Pain teaches fear. It doesn't teach understanding. I wanted you to understand, not to be afraid of me." "I was pretty afraid anyway," Wei Long admits. "That's normal. Fear passes. What you do after it passes is what matters." Over the following weeks, Wei Long begins studying not just movement, but distance, the space between two people, and how little of it is actually needed to end a confrontation. He learns to notice the half-second of preparation before every technique, the small telegraphs that give away an opponent's intention before the technique itself arrives. He starts drilling the same 3-inch adjustments over and over, the tiny shifts in weight that let a much smaller, much slower-looking movement accomplish what a much larger one couldn't. He learns slowly and with real effort that economy of motion isn't the opposite of showmanship, that the two, done well, can actually serve each other. It isn't easy. There are entire days where his old instincts take over and he catches himself doing what he's always done, reaching for height, for rotation, for the moves that used to earn applause on an opera stage. Old habits built over a decade don't unwind in a month, but he keeps at it, session after session, small correction after small correction, the same way anyone rebuilds a foundation, slowly, and mostly out of sight of the people who only see the finished result. 3 months later, on a different set, a fellow stuntman jokingly asks him to show off one of his big flips for a scene. Wei Long laughs, does a smaller, tighter version of the move, and adds a short, Sharp counterstrike at the end that lands cleaner and faster than anything from his old routine. Best of both, he says. Learned that from someone who humbled me pretty badly once. Wei Long goes on to become one of the most respected fight choreographers of his generation, not because he stopped being acrobatic, but because he learned to build genuine efficiency underneath the spectacle. Decades later, when young stunt performers ask him about his early career, he tells them the story of that August morning without hesitation, tears and all. I cried in front of 40 people, he tells them. It was the most humiliating day of my life. It was also the day I actually started learning. Everyone remembers the 8 seconds I lost. I remember everything I gained after it. The lesson. Every generation produces someone supremely gifted and supremely certain that talent alone is enough, that flash can substitute for depth, that being the most watched person in the room is the same thing as being the most capable one. And every generation, sooner or later, that certainty meets something quieter and far more dangerous. Someone who has stopped performing altogether and simply is what they practice. The tears in this story were never really about losing a demonstration. They were about the exact, disorienting moment a young man realized the gap between who he thought he was and who he actually was, and had the courage to close that gap instead of walking away from it. That's the real story behind every he lost and broke down in tears legend that circulates in martial arts communities to this day. Not the humiliation, the choice made in the minutes right after it. Why stories like this one endure? Stories about a young, gifted fighter meeting someone who has gone further down the same road tend to survive for a reason that has nothing to do with martial arts specifically. They survive because almost everyone, at some point, has had their own version of that 8 seconds. The moment of skill they were proud of turned out to be shallower than they thought, in front of people whose opinion mattered to them. What separates the stories worth retelling isn't the fall. It's always what happens in the minutes right after, whether the person gets up, dries their face, and asks the harder question of what do I actually need to learn here, or whether they let the humiliation calcify into an excuse to stop trying. Wei Long's tears in this telling aren't the low point of the story. They're simply the visible marker of the exact moment his understanding of his own limits caught up with reality. A necessary, uncomfortable, entirely human moment that had to happen before anything better could be built on top of it. The star who caused those tears understood that too, which is why he didn't walk away afterward, and why the lesson didn't end with the demonstration. That, more than any spinning kick or perfectly landed backflip, is the part of this story worth remembering. If this story moved you, follow along for more legendary martial arts tales. The real lessons are always in what happens after the fall.